The whistleblower is worried about his life, y'all.
Ooh.
What kind of information could that poor sucker have on Biden that he got to be worried about getting off? Well, we're going to break it down, talk about it, see where we get with it, and find out, since we know a lot about Biden, where this leads us. We'll be right back with the Savage Patriot. Well, bye.
Well,
Um,
hello.
what is the one thing that you'd be concerned about if you was a whistleblower? I will tell you what's the one thing I'd be concerned about. That when I blew that whistle, someone would blow my head off. So we have
Right.
in our possession now a certain whistleblower, informant, aide, kind of thing. And apparently the oversight committee said that this agent is afraid because of the information that he has on President Biden.
Mm.
And so we are going to talk a wee bit about what the possible implications could be about that and why should he be afraid of information if it's not true?
That's
What do you
right.
guys think?
Look, this is everything a lot of us conspiracy theorists have been talking about for years. His dealings in Ukraine, Hunter's laptop, all this dirty money going from China to Ukraine to everywhere else, the money
Ashley's
laundering.
diary.
So with his daughter's or his granddaughter's diary, this guy is probably going to come out and actually confirm everything we've been saying, and I think that's why he's scared, because he probably has hard evidence, like really hard evidence, that all this stuff we've been saying is true.
How much more evidence do we need? Like, out of all of the things we've seen from Hunter Biden's laptop and everything else tied to that family, how are they even still running for office? Like, how he was in office to begin with? Like, after VP, he should have been done. Like, it's insane the amount of money that has been laundered through all these different shell companies, as well as all of the different things in Ukraine and Iraq with his brother. Like, they had an article called Biden Inc. where it showcased every single thing connected to the Biden family through his brother, through his son, everything. And they're still saying, I'm surprised this is happening. Why is this whistleblower coming out now saying he's corrupt and making a bunch of money off of dealings in politics? I don't know. Where's all that corruption coming from when it was them that reported it in the first place? That's how insane the world is.
Indeed.
And again, I think for me, it's one of those things where it's like they operate on rules for thee, but not for me, kind of a notion. Like, if we were to do even remotely half the things as normies that we are, the citizens, it'd be Guantanamo Bay instantaneously, or But I'm sorry. But yeah, I just the fact that you got a whistleblower that is out confirming everything we already knew, but he's afraid because that means it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
It's
we know
true.
it's true. Like, at this point, like, I don't understand why people would think it's not true. Like, out of all the revelations that have come about, there's no reason not to believe what this dude is saying. We even have Tony Bobulinski, who was involved with the Biden family, come out and say, hey, I was pertained to this type of information. They were doing shady business dealings behind the government's back. And they're still like, I'm still surprised this is happening every single time.
So the ongoing thing now, hear me out. They say that he's afraid for his life. And the New York Times has reported that there's no evidence of wrongdoing by the president. Although the investigation has not been complete, I don't know how the New York Times got that information that there was nothing to be found, even during their press conferences, they showed you financials. Chuck Grassley went through in financials. So what they're trying to do now is run cover. What they're trying to say now and do now, they're going to run their own false flag. Watch it. They're going to run their own false flag. They're going to have this come across as though and say, put in the media that the Republicans found no information about Biden. And if this whistleblower comes forward after that gets dropped and he gets killed, they're going to say, oh, the GOP did it so that they can make it look like Biden is still guilty.
Did you say New York Times, Marlon?
Yeah.
Now,
New York Times that brand cover for Biden all throughout while running pieces on Trump. Okay.
Yes,
Same one.
the New York Times.
Yeah.
But you look at everything that's going on. I mean, look at Canada. Canada's on fire right now. The whole East
Yeah.
Coast. New York's covered in smoke. You know what I mean? It's just like all these things. Whenever something comes out about these corrupt politicians, like something big, huge, something happens. You know, then
Yeah.
and remember we talked about shiny objects, right? We keep talking about these shiny objects that they'll throw out there to catch the attention of the mental midgets that we have in our country, because we have a bunch of them. And they'll
Mental
and now everybody's over here crying about New York when you should be focused on the man that's in charge of our country. What's happening in New York, we don't know what how that fire started. We probably do know, but we can't control that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we can focus on this president. That's where all the eyes need to be. So stop falling for these shiny objects. We got to stop it. This guy knows he's corrupt. He knows he's guilty, and he's going to do everything within his power to continue to go on through with his presidency and run in 2024. And just like Marlon said, they're going to do something else.
I almost feel like we're giving Biden too much credit. You know what I mean?
can
he's
see that,
a walking corpse right now, and like his handlers are doing all the work.
Handlers.
Like,
His handlers. We'll say his
yeah,
handlers.
his handlers doing all the policy. I mean, they just wake him up from his nap and say, "Hey, Joe, go out here and take a picture real quick. Okay, go back and take a nap." Like that's what they're doing with the guy. So it's like we know in his entire like 50 plus years or whatever, however long it's been that he's been in politics, right? He has been doing shady things to enrich his family. We've known this from the beginning. And like you were saying, Jay Lee, earlier about if any of us had done any of the things that Hunter Biden did on his laptop, like smoke crack, take pictures of it with some hookers, and then lie on a federal background check form to get a gun, and then lose said gun by a school, we would be in jail. Yeah,
Big facts.
without a
It's just
doubt.
Also, it's just funny to me the double standard, because I remember the whistleblower on the left, the Fusion GPS dossier, the Fusion dossier. That's a whistleblower, and everybody and their mothers on the left believe that guy. But this guy comes out, he says a bunch of things in a trial, and then all of a sudden he's fearing for his life. Like, help me understand.
And they're okay with it. Now here's a breakdown. They said that Grassley and Comer were approached by an informant last month, and that the FBI was in possession of a document, an FD 1023 form that was dated 2020 in June, which explicitly detailed information provided by a confidential human source alleging Biden, while serving as vice president, was involved in a $5 million criminal bribery scheme with a foreign national in exchange for influence over policy decisions. Now, listen carefully to me, people. How do I know this is true? Or better yet, how do I know I can believe that statement? Because while he was vice president, he did it out loud and in public, the exact same bribery thing. When he was on stage talking about the $1 billion that he would withhold from the Ukrainian people if he had not gotten what he wanted, which was a certain person fired. Even when he was running for senator, he said back then that don't think for a moment that I'm not corruptible and I can't be bought. Everybody has a price. Then all of a sudden, if you look, now this is something I want people out there to do. Don't take my word for it. The information is there. Go back through Obama's years, all 8 of them, and look and see what kind of kickbacks, or better yet, what benefits were offered to certain countries that Joe Biden just happened to be an emissary for. Then look at the laws passed by the Democrats at the time that one either benefited those things, benefited the infrastructure of those things, benefited the financials. Then come back and tell me if you still think that Joe Biden operated in a position that was pro-America. Because I'll just say my money's safe, but I'm trying to see if you can figure this one out, because I don't think it's a lie, especially when you have this
Spoiler
going on
alert.
with your son.
He's not. He's corrupt.
Yeah, he's definitely not pro-American. That he's proven that for his whole career in politics. But didn't the guy that he got fired in Ukraine go into the Ukraine, whatever you want to call Congress or officials, and ask for an investigation into his firing? I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened recently. So, if for a politician to flat out do things right in front of the Americans people's face and kind of laugh it off, that should wake a lot of people. This should wake you up when he came out and dropped the N-bomb about Clarence Thomas, when he talked about, the schools, the racial jungles, when he talked about pushing his crime bill, when he came out and talked about how he is corrupt, when he talked about how much money, and people still voted for this guy.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean,
Yep.
People still voted.
Bro,
for
you
him.
took it. You took it to the absolute extreme. I mean, like let's look at even the minor stuff, like true international under pressure.
Yeah.
Batacath care.
The thing.
Slight Indian accent walking into
7-Eleven.
Listen, Fats.
Yeah.
Like
Boy.
all
There
that
was another
stuff.
one.
What?
I said the other one where we called the black dude boy. At
Yeah. But you're gonna sit here and tell me, Rachel Maddow, that this guy is the hope for America, but true international pressure is something a viable president says. Like,
Barack Obama's back there like this right now. God dang it, Joe. Go that way,
Joe. Stop it, Joe.
pause.
Okay, so
Repeat
can,
line.
can one of you bring up that video in the private chat?
Yeah,
please?
I've got it up for you already.
Yeah.
Now, many of you probably seen this before, and if you have, bear with us. But there's no one else but you on the Facebook. It looks like net. Sorry, like I think you're the only one on Facebook. Sorry.
Yeah, everybody's on YouTube.
No one else came over. I put it on there just in case people can come here. But anyway, you may have seen this already. You may not have.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Vice
Hey, Margaret,
President.
good to
How are
see you.
Can you turn that
My
up?
question is,
Yeah, it's up all the way.
Okay.
should we actually be going on offense in the information war, in the cyber war, in terms of delegitimizing, not just exposing the corruption, but really playing
that's not the
offense
one.
the way they're playing offense?
Hold
The
on.
answer
That's
is
not the one.
Yes, but not
They put the
necessarily
same
in the
thumbnail.
Cyberspace where we go in, and most of what
might
happens
be.
in cyberspace is altering information.
We'll take that one down real quick.
That was
There it is. There it is.
All
I got
right.
it. I got it now.
Okay.
Somebody
I got
mentioned Joe's
I got
handlers
it.
also. Yeah, he does have handlers. He's not making. You know who
Yeah.
his main handler is? His wife.
Chelsea.
His wife.
I was gonna say the Easter Bunny because that's happened a couple
Yeah.
times. They got like Secret Service running around as the Easter
Pooping
Bunny
his
and like
pants on stage.
Okay, see if that's the one.
The thing.
The thing.
The thing.
I mean, even
Yeah,
Jill
that should
Biden,
be
like
the
she's
one.
a doctorate of education, but she goes, "Si se puede." It's like, woman, what?
he's a
Sorry.
doctor.
Quip, quip, quap, way.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Oh,
at the
oh,
time.
back that up.
Well,
Back
there's
that
still
up. What do you do? Go ahead. And you didn't say they, right?
And
Listen
they
what it
put
said.
in place someone who was solid at the time. Well, there's still so they made
At the time.
Please
I
tell
like that
me
wording.
what exactly was solid about the person they put in. You got someone solid put in.
Mhm.
Now, listen carefully. You're a whistleblower. And you're whistleblowing on something that has to do with Joe Biden. Now, these views are mine of what I believe. These does not express what the rest of the guys on the panel believes. This is just me. I want to make sure I put that out there before anybody else think, oh, it's every patriot. No, just Marlon. That's the only one that thinks this. Okay, just me. Now, You have a man who has um, he has a son that does crack. He was a vice president and had multiple locations to where he was important over, and they somehow always managed to get him back something in return. But if you're a
Hmm.
whistleblower and you're coming forward with information, and on this human being that you're trying to rat on, he had a first family that died, and right after that, his political career took off. His second phase of his political career took off after his son dies. And none of his people that you can think of are going to prison, even though for committing felonies. If I knew those things about the person I was blowing a whistle on, oh, and his boyfriend, the one that was president at the time,
Hmm.
could put a hit on you at any moment in time, just like he did Gaddafi and a bunch of other world leaders. If that were me trying to blow on that guy, I wouldn't do it. Especially if I was in fear of, if I had something I wanted to live for, I would not. I would not be a whistleblower. I would say I have stuff, but I'm not saying nothing because I don't want anybody knowing nothing. I'll end up dead. I would put Biden second behind Hillary Clinton with the body count. No, sorry, third behind Barack, then him. I am of the belief that he did indeed arrange the death of his first family. I'm also of the belief that he was behind the death of his son, Bo. And I am 100% sold on the fact that he's willing to kill anybody to get money. That so if I was a whistleblower, I wouldn't come forward. I would at least I'd make sure I'd stay as anonymous as possible.
That's a sensible approach.
Yeah, I mean, they, if anything, they're gonna have to find a way to protect this guy because somebody is gonna leak who it is. You know that whistleblower is not safe in whoever FBI custody or the FBI whistleblower. He's not safe with them. I don't even know why he would trust them. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I would have never went to the FBI myself. I would have called some other foreign country that I can trust. I would have called China and be like, "Hey, I got some information. You protect me, I got you. You fly to China and give them all the information."
Biden. Okay,
You know
please
what I
come.
mean? So it's I get where Marlon's saying. Maybe this guy he has something to live for. Everyone has something to live for, you know. So he's terrified because he knows and he really knows how these cabal, evil, draconian, reptilian politicians operate. He knows exactly how they operate. So we just got to figure it out, and hopefully the truth does come out, and everything is put out there right before the elections, like right before. Watch
It
the
don't
whole
matter.
freaking crumble.
They're gonna they're gonna play defense for Biden all day long because that is the narrative. They have to keep the narrative propped up as long as they possibly can because they can't have Trump in and they don't want the Republicans to win, but they don't have anybody to actually take the mantle of what they need to get done. And so that's the problem is like everybody knows at this point, everybody knows that the entire deep state agency, the administrative state is corrupt. Joe Biden is corrupt. The entire system is corrupt. We know it. Everybody knows it. Nobody's questioning that fact that the system is corrupt. And yet nobody wants to do anything about it except for Donald Trump. That's it. Like the only person that's wanting to get rid of all of these people is Donald Trump with Schedule F, wanting to fire all these people and get them out of office because they're unelected bureaucrats that are taking over everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the fact that they have investigations on the Biden family, they have them dead to rights for committing crimes, and none of them are getting prosecuted. But we get prosecutions for Donald Trump all day long. But we know Hunter Biden committed felonies, tons of felonies on his laptop, still isn't getting charged. We know that Joe Biden is connected somehow to all of the business dealings together. They shared a bank account even. We know there's money laundering going on, but nobody wants to investigate it to the point of bringing up charges to Joe Biden. Even before he started running for office, this stuff was known. So it's like, what to do?
Bring up that threat, please, in the chat, and not the chat, in the private chat. Yes, bring up that threat real quick. It's the last YouTube video.
Oh, yeah.
We do not stream on TikTok because we'll only make it like 5 minutes in before some sissy boy reports the live and takes it down. So we are never going to be streaming on TikTok. TikTok is a place of pansies and sissies and soy boys and beta males and homosexual females. So we're not going to be on that platform whatsoever. So
Yep.
I want to make sure people understand that.
Never.
This is the threat, right?
This is the latest statement, latest tweet, as you were just saying. The president-elect's latest unsolicited pronouncement on the intelligence community. This was his tweet just a little while ago tonight. You see the scare quotes there. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. We're actually told, intelligence sources tell NBC News since this tweet has been posted, that actually this intelligence briefing for the president-elect was always planned for Friday. It hasn't been delayed. But he's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
Yeah.
What's
Really
happening
dumb.
now? What's happening now? Oh, they're targeting him.
Just like
And how
he
many
said.
ways? 6 ways from Sunday. Now, look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a realist. When people tell you something, what do? Believe them.
Mhm.
He said
We should change that
he's
word.
dumb for doing that. He's dumb for doing that because why? Not because he has no proof. Notice he didn't say that. He said he's
Yeah.
dumb for going after them because they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you.
Yep.
No one's
Yep.
going after the FBI. If you critique them, that's a need for revenge.
Yep.
Okay.
You know what the standard practice is for the FBI right now is to arrest people that they deem problematic when they find magical kitty porn on their laptop.
Oh yeah.
That is the way they've been taking out dissenters for the last few years. Is that there will be a magical little thing end up on your hard drive and go, ooh, I wonder how that got there. He must be a pedophile. Take him down. And that's how they get. Like this is a theory. This is, instead of calling it a conspiracy theory, I'm going to call it a political or cultural theory. Mind you, that this is how the FBI, it'll come out probably in 10 years. This is how they had actually been taking care of. Yeah, spoiler alerts. That's what it is. That's how they've been taking care of dissenters, is that they make up cases in order to do that. We know the FBI does that every single day, like the Gretchen Whitmer thing, right? With Donald Trump. With all of these things, we know the FBI makes up cases to pad their budgets. We know they are doing this actively every single time. They'll be, instead of having one case for one thing, this is coming from the FBI whistleblowers, right? Instead of having one case for like this whole organization, they do each individual case for every single person attached to that one case in order to pad their cases up, right?
Well,
so it's a one case, but it's all these different people.
Yeah. So what if all this is just a mind game for the American people? Like I said, I'm a conspiracy theorist. My brain is always, the wheels are always turning. What if this whole thing about fearing for its life and all of this is just a scare tactic for other people to come forward? You know what I mean? What if it is? Because they know there's other whistleblowers out there. They know for a fact there are other people out there that have something on him. So
Look at the Clintons.
What if this is
really
just
well.
something to say, you see, this guy's terrified and this guy's saying how scared he is, that's going to, scare other people away from coming forward. They're like, well, if the FBI can't even protect one of their own, why would I say something? So you got to look at it like that too. This could be a game.
The DOJ can't protect Jeffrey Epstein in their own jail. So
That's right.
They did
But
protect
Coy, what about
Still
finding kitty
alive.
porn on an actual laptop that was discovered in Brooklyn by, what about that case? Like that wasn't planted by the FBI. That was self-indicted. Like
how do you,
what about
okay?
that,
How
sir?
do you tell a convincing lie?
You say it over and over again.
You say it over and over again. Plus, you have to mix truth with the lie, right? If you want to tell a convincing lie, you always have to tell some truth with the lie. And that's the way you do it with this sort of situation. If you want to frame people, you can't frame every single case. It just has to be one in a while. And it has to be in congruence with another case. It can't be something that is by itself. If you do it by itself, it obviously looks targeted. But if it's a batch of other cases, nobody's going to miss 1 out of 10. So it's the same thing with any sort of lie. You tell a little bit of the truth with the lie and people believe it. You repeat it long enough, people believe it no matter what it is.
I
And
just want to see
they'll
it.
not believe it if it's not a thing that they hold dear to them.
Yes.
Like you'd show them that Hunter is and this is not even, this is by his own admission, Hunter is a junkie.
Yep.
And last I checked, he was the same one that said he smoked more Parmesan cheese than anybody else on earth. You're a junkie.
Yep.
So you admit that you've been a junkie and strung out for a long time. It's also factual that he was a junkie while he had, like you said, a firearm,
Mm-hmm.
which is a felony,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he lied on the so-called background report that you have to fill out for your guns that they want every American to fill out. But no jail time for him. But you're trying to tell me that people like Paul Manafort goes to jail in their old age.
Yeah.
That's it, but if you, and the thing is, like with Hunter and Biden and all these corrupt people, you know, when you show, especially on Twitter, just go through Twitter, you can show them hard truth. Here it is in your face. Read it yourself. And the main thing, a lot of these left-wing Twitter people with the blue checks,
Yeah.
well, why are they focusing on Hunter Biden's laptop? He's not running for president. He's not in office and all this other stuff. They need to be focusing the transgender community. There's a genocide going on. So they shift it. Here, look at this shiny object over here. We're talking about something that people hold true to their heart, that are very emotional about. Forget this. And that's how they work. They're all plants. All these people that are not talking what's going on, the truth with this administration, they're trying to shift the focus to something else. They're all planted to do that because they know, again, most humans have the freaking attention span of a gnat, and they're not paying attention to what's really going on. You can get their attention like that. Oh, look, there's Tom Cruise. He just farted. Oh, and then they're moving over here. That was crazy to me.
Distraction.
So here's the question then. How credible do you think well, it's a rhetorical question, but how credible do you think these threats are to this whistleblower's life? That, okay, let me rephrase that question because that's too easy of an answer to give. Is there credibility to his fear of being killed with the information he has? Should he be afraid? Now remember,
Is
the guilty are the
it
violent
connected
ones.
to Hillary Clinton?
Well, the
That's my
violent ones
question.
are us. Okay, we are the terrorists.
Yeah.
And when we don't like somebody, apparently we are able to kill people. So if the party that's the party of peace, love, happiness, acceptance, and all that stuff, should that whistleblower be afraid of dying if he's bringing out information about someone on the left?
Are you damn right? I mean, look at the track record.
Yeah.
Talk to the Hillary. You get, Clinton side. All these people. Talk to them all. McAfee. Epstein.
McAfee.
McAfee, whatever his name. Epstein. Who was that other guy that worked for the Clinton campaign?
Bill.
What's his name? He got shot in the middle of the street in the back.
Oh, Rich.
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
Seth.
yeah. You're
Seth Rich.
Seth Rich.
Seth
yeah,
Rich.
yeah.
So look what happened. These guys are like, these guys weren't.
You're not even mentioning
they
the
were real
most
close.
recent one.
They were real close to the Clintons, and look what happened to him. Why would I come out? So
Right.
I believe him. He could fear for his life. He probably has kids, wife, and all this stuff. He's like, I'm not going out like that.
Yeah, like the recent dude in Arkansas who found himself hung in a tree and shot in the chest with a shotgun.
Right.
It was a suicide. It totally a suicide.
Yeah.
No
3
reason
times.
no reason the shotgun was 30, 40 yards away from his body. No way that he did not kill himself.
Well, I've done that before. I've put myself in a tree and shot myself in the chest, but I survived. See,
Right.
that's the difference. He just doesn't know how to do it. That's his problem.
Right.
If you don't know how to do something, don't try it, idiot. That's what you get. You
And-
don't have never tried that. You never tried going up in a tree with a rope, dropping, and before you die, pull out the shotgun and hold it away from you and press the trigger. You never done that?
Why would that make sense in anybody's
Didn't Kurt
rational
Cobain-
mind?
Didn't Kurt
Yeah, but
Cobain do that?
this is basically how they say it happened, right? So, like this is how it's supposed to happen, right? So what he did is he got up on a thing, right? Put the noose around his neck, put the shotgun to his chest, used his big or pinky toe or whatever it was, used the toe, and then shot himself in the chest with his pinky toe, right? Like, and then hung himself to death. That's how he died with an electrical cord, no less, right? That is how he died. That is legitimately he committed suicide in the most ridiculous way possible. Do not question the narrative ever.
That's believable though. That's a believable death.
I just pictured that.
It looks ridiculous in your head, doesn't it? Absolutely ridiculous, but they want you to believe that's the story. That's how he died. Totally true.
That boy did calisthenics for a living. Is what he did.
You know,
If you showed that on Looney Tunes, you would believe that shit more than what that the actual article says.
yeah, here's what I would do, man. If I was in charge of the universe, right? And say all this stuff that they're trying to hide, that they've been deceitful about, all of it's true, and it comes out. It's true. Everything, these conspiracy theories, these crazy Magdalorians, whatever they call us now, ultra magas, everything they said was truth. From COVID to Biden to everything. Everyone who pushed that agenda, from media to politicians to whoever, they should all be held accountable, locked up, and thrown under the jail.
That's too funny. Will it happen?
Or tar and feathers.
No.
I mean, reason.
The only way it would happen, somebody asked this before, is like, we know all of this is true, and it's bound to be true. We know it is. So before I get to that topic, there's one other thing I wanted to say, is that this is the standard way that media works, right? They'll say something isn't true, and then 6 months later, they'll say, oh, well, we were wrong. It is true. And everybody already knew it was true to begin with, but now they're just correcting the record before everybody else jumps onto the story. Now, how you fix it is you have to get everybody out. You have to be active in the political scene. If you don't like the people that are running your country, then don't vote for them. That's the problem. A lot of these people just get voted in like it's a glass of water, like they said in New York. You just put a D on a glass of water and it'll sail right through. It's the same thing in certain red states. Put an R next to a glass of water, it'll get right through. You have to be involved in the primaries. Primaries are the most important races that actually matter when it comes to your vote, because that is how they know who they need to put up for the general election. So if you want your guy to win, you have to be involved in the primaries, not just the general election. So that's how you fix it.
And here's the thing, and another way to fix it is to really start holding people accountable. You got to stop getting these people in here that are responsible for holding people accountable that are part of the freaking system.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They have to create a way outside of an outside entity that investigates these people, because they're just investigating themselves, man. They're just investigating their buddy. It's all freaking lights, camera, action. You know what I mean? All their little investigations, that's not real. That is just a shiny object. Like I keep saying, it's something to keep the American people divided. They're like, well, we're just going to say we're going to invest this, put them in front of Congress and ask them a few questions, and we'll question them for one day, and then poof, you don't hear about it no more, because they switched on to the next one. So this whole, we're going to sit in front of Congress and talk, that needs to end. It's either you're going to sit in front of the Supreme Court or we're going to bring an outside agency in here of citizens that sit in here and decide your fate.
You're right. Another thing that you can do to fix it is to launch lawsuits. Lawsuits are going to be the best way. Get them to the Supreme Court, get these decisions handed down. That's a way to get rid of them.
That's right.
Launch kittens into the air too, if you want.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate the word accountability, but we do have to start figuring out different avenues to hold these people accountable, because right now they think they're untouchable. And you've heard them slip up on camera. You've heard them do a mic slip to where they say things like they're untouchable.
But they are.
Well, they are, but they shouldn't be. And there has to be a way to show them that, no, we can reach out and touch you this way, legally. Supreme Court.
Good. I'm glad you said that.
I'm
glad you used that word. Legally.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about something that I want to talk about on the next Rumble podcast. I'll make sure I talk coded so we get an idea, but I do want to get a feel of which one of you on the screen feels the way I feel. Okay, so I'm going to give you a code word to answer in the affirmative and a code word to answer in the negative. Okay.
Should I be immature about this?
I saw that. Yes, be immature. I was on the verge of calling it out, and then I said, I was giving an idiot some attention. Should we be looking into accessing the tree of liberty? Yay for yes or nay for no?
Yay.
Maybe.
With caveats.
Okay, good.
No
What's the
caveat.
caveat? Name one caveat.
Numbers.
No, all. That's that's my number.
I think
all.
that was it was
Yes.
the question.
I'm
is
talking
like
about
maybe.
from scratch. Dead pan, scraped floor, ground zero, raised all the way across.
Yeah, no,
Straight
that's
across.
done.
I
The
I think
revolution will be
I think yes,
televised.
and like I said, yes and no, just because I know
is no
history
no.
and I know there is, because you have to have a plan for what happens afterwards. That's the problem.
We do. We do.
There's always a plan.
There's a plan.
No.
The plan would
No,
be
no, it's-
here's what. Yes, there is always a plan. The plan would be to go back to the original way our country was supposed to be governed.
Straight and simple.
Right.
Period. There is no big Washington D.C. that governs Texas or Oklahoma or where, Georgia or whatever. There's D.C. should just be there.
Now, if like I said, going back, it's idealistic, and with anything like that is one of those things. If like you can only control it as long as everybody is on board, but there's always going to be somebody that wants to grab for power. That's the problem with any sort of watering of trees, right? Anytime that happens, there's always somebody that goes for the grab, and that's the problem with that. It doesn't matter how well intentioned your views are with that. It can always go wrong and go worse. That's why I'm yes and no.
You know, when you water trees, what it creates? Low-hanging fruit.
True, but still, like I said, it's one of those things. Like idealistically, yeah, it would be great, but at the same time, I know history, and I don't think it'll go as well as everybody thinks it would. That's the only problem.
I don't need it to go well. I just need it to happen.
We need an example. That's what we're looking for.
Here's the thing. I don't think it doesn't. I don't think we'll ever need to get to all of them. I think a couple of buckets of water will be fine. I don't need a gallon, 15 gallons, a couple of buckets. You know, like some pints, couple of pints, of the right kind of water. Some high quality H2O.
Yep.
If we got some high quality H2O up on that tree, I think we'd be in business. I have a select like 4. Okay, I'll pick a number 4. There are 4 in particular that I would use as a that I find useful for the tree. There are 4 very specific buckets that I find very useful for the tree. And I think if we did those 4 in the manner that is needed for the tree, I don't think you'd need to have a whole re-election. I think you'd find some people very compliant to the will of the people.
Yes.
At that point, you'd be amazed how quickly how gardening can help a soul. I mean, they say gardening is good for the soul, right? That's what they say. And since our garden of giving up is fresh out, we need to be able to replant those give up. And the best way is to have a couple of buckets on hand.
And again, you know, back to my original point, the minute you start holding them accountable with their peers, because we're still their peers, they're not some superhuman being, they're not some special person. You get the citizens from their state that get to decide their fate. That's how you do it.
That's a good one.
That's how you do it. And then, like Marlon said, once we start getting these buckets of water and you start drinking them, the rest of them don't want to get. They don't want to get drank, so they're gonna be like,
it's true.
They're gonna be like, oh no, I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm doing the right thing.
Back in the day was tar and feathered, right? That's what it used to be. You used to get tar and feathered. Even if you want to bring that back, I'd welcome that.
Me too.
That's true. I would be on board with that. One of the things with this is that people are almost there. It's reminded me of that scene in V for Vendetta. Eventually, somebody's going to do something stupid, and it's going to light everything off. And I think that's where we're going right now. We saw what happened recently with the Armenian parents attacking Antifa. Right? We're almost at that point. And whether we want to do it or not is not going to be a question anymore. And I think you always have to go through the legal process first until all other means of persuasion have been utilized. And then tree watering must be, in fact, used. That's the thing, is that
Which law are you talking about? Are you talking about maritime law?
The
Or are you talking
Constitution.
about
No,
okay, constitutional law. As long as we're
constitutional
talking
law.
about constitutional law, not the maritime crap.
Redress of grievances should always be first until it is no longer viable and
That's
that
right.
the government no longer listens to its people. That's the thing.
We're
As
there.
long as you have faith in the system, it will persist until the citizens no longer have faith in their government. That's going to be
We're
the
there.
thing.
We're already there.
I know a lot of people are, but the average, you have to get the average person on board with that. When you have a justification for that kind of action, you have to have the average person, the person that doesn't care until it's too late type of person has to be on
Well,
board with you.
Here's the thing. I do think the average person cares. I don't consider the people that don't care average. I consider them the thorn and the problem. I don't think they're average. I think they are purposefully ignorant. But I believe that regular normies are at that point already. As for the execution of the said plan, I believe that it has to come in the form of something rogue. It can't come in the form of something.
Recognized.
It would make that inauguration thing or the counting of those votes day pale in comparison, and we wouldn't need nearly as many to show up
This
to do it.
what is that town that the World War II vets came in and there was corruption rampant and they had to force their way to make sure the ballots were counted properly. I'm trying to remember where, but if you know the story I'm talking about, that's kind of where we're at, right? With the way people feel about election systems, especially today, is that they feel that their voice doesn't matter and doesn't count, and that's why they might need to. And I think that's what scares the state the most, is because they're pushing it too far and they don't know how to slow down anymore.
And one of the main reasons like a lot of these politicians aren't scared is because they consider themselves, again, a protected class. If a lot of these governors or senators or whatever, mayors, even if that had to live in the slums that their constituents live in, you'll see a lot more change. So the governor of Texas can't live in a mansion downtown. No, you have to live on the east side. You have to live in a 2-bedroom house on the east side with your people, with the people, because all these people run these states, but a lot of them don't even live in the state that they run. But they claim like, oh, yeah, I care for Florida. I care for this and I care for that. But you live all the way in freaking over here. You care about that state on paper. You go to your governor's mansion, half the other time you're gone. So I think these people actually need to live in the worst parts of those states and live there
To make them better. Yeah.
to make them think like, wow, these people actually live like that, because they're so out of touch, man. They have to live there and understand and feel it. And then we can Gaddafi them. We can do that.
I like to call them the neo nobility, right? They have this same
That's a
sort of
good way to put it.
elitist mentality that the nobility had back in the day, the bourgeoisie, if you want to go in the Marxist realm. So we have to look at these people as not being down to earth, because they're not. They're nobility that think that everything they do is justified regardless of what it is. They're always right. Their money makes them the power, right? And whatever I want to do and say goes. And that's how they act. You see how they act. They talk down to people all the time. It's like, we know what's best for you. We know what's better for you, because we, the nobility, know what's best for the plebs and the commoners. We know what's best for you. Just shut up, pay us money, pay your taxes, live on your serfdom, and shut the hell up. That's what they want you to do, right?
Yeah.
You sent that article with the
Biden Inc.
the vets that overthrew
Oh yeah.
that local government in 1946. I understand that they understood American government and their role way better than anyone else in today's time will ever understand it. We have a lot, and this is part of their plan. Okay, this was part. I know people might think we're straying away from the whistleblower. No, we're telling you why the whistleblower might be in danger. But we have come so far away from seeing what our rights are, not by what corrupt politicians have made as law, because the laws that they make cannot supersede the Constitution. And I don't think people understand that particular thing. When you have the Constitution as your basis, when you make laws contrary to that, you are no longer abiding by the foundations of the country. And they have fail safes in the Constitution for that very thing. Most people won't take their time to go see what their options are. They'll go based on what people tell them they can and can't do. Like they don't believe that it's legally okay, legally by the definition of the word legally and by the provisions left in the Constitution to remove them. It's fine to do that. You don't have to have a voting process. You don't have to ask their permission, nor do you even need violence. You just have the right to tell them, now we starting over, homie. We done. Most people do not understand that their rights here as Americans, and this is why foreigners come here and they know, because we have to learn this back home. You have more rights than you even remotely understand. What the government is telling you as your rights is not what your rights are. Those are what they're trying to take from you and impose upon you as though that's all you have. You have exponentially more power. It's not just the voting. It's not just protesting. You have exponentially more power than those two avenues. We just don't use them. We don't exploit them. We don't manipulate them, and we don't put them into effect. With this whistleblower, I can fully understand why he's afraid, because no one will be there to protect him based on the Constitution. They're all there to defend their own interest in what he might be talking about. And that goes for the GOP as well. So I can't blame the guy for being afraid, and I cannot say that he has no merit. He has a complete merit to think this way, especially against someone like Joe Biden, who's as corrupt as he is.
Yeah.
If he's willing to shower naked with his daughter, what am I going to put past a pedophile? I'm not going to put anything past a pedophile.
And you think about the great generation. You brought up the generation, you and Coy brought up the generation from World War II and how they held their government officials accountable by storming a government building and going in and demanding things. And there's a huge difference between that generation and this generation. And we all know, we get all the bells and whistles, the TVs, the phones, the video games, the sex, and all this stuff to keep us from focusing on what they're doing. That generation really had nothing better to do but to take care of their family and make sure these government officials weren't doing something crooked. And they watched and they paid attention and they kept records of everything. Our generation, like I said, they can be like, they just bombed somewhere in New York. The next day they can talk about LeBron James broke his toe, and that's what everybody's going to be talking about. You know what I mean? So it takes the American people. I get it. Everybody doesn't want to focus on this stuff every day, man. It's doom and gloom. I understand. I don't focus on it all day, every day, but I pay attention. And if you just paid attention and then you look for patterns in what's being said, if people keep saying the Biden family is corrupt and this whistleblower can lose his life, if so many people are saying it, you should take that to heart. There has to be some truth in there somewhere.
Yep.
There has to be a little bit of truth, but most people be like, oh, that's just the Republicans. They're just out to get Biden. And then we go back into
There's
sides.
extreme MAGA Republicans.
Yeah, we just go into sides. It's not about sides. It's about justice, man.
I want to
think you're right.
something. Go ahead, Coy. After you're done, go ahead.
No, I think Bro's right, because like when it really comes down to it, is like, at what point does the government have to be so corrupt before you're willing to take a stand and do what's right? And that's a really good question, because you know what technically sedition is, right? And conspiracy and sedition to overthrow the United States, and that's the problem. Is like, I think the right doesn't want to overthrow the United States. They want to correct it. They want to fix it. They want the United States Constitution to be what it's supposed to be. The left wants the destruction of the United States. That's the problem. Yeah. They are actively seeking a seditious conspiracy to destroy the United States and the Constitution. And we know they are. We're watching it happen in front of our faces. So
I just realized something. They're being more constitutional than we are.
Yeah.
They're being way more adherent to the Constitution and to the Declaration of Independence than we are. This is how bad it's become for us, okay? The left, who wants to destroy the Constitution and everything that built America, is using the exact same provisions that allow them to do it.
Yep.
Okay? So I want to read something real quick. And I want to, before I continue, I do want to cover that so-called voicemail or recording of Trump that they say they have. I want to go through the veracity of that on Friday if you guys are game for that.
Okay.
But I want to read this. And I'm going to try and do it in the best narrative voice as I can, because it's something that I think people need to be reminded of. Okay. Um, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station in which the law of nature and nature's God entitled them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, meaning life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. I want people to understand that hasn't changed. The left is technically using that exact same premise to do what they're doing. They used it to burn down buildings in riots. They used it to beat up politicians that they don't like. They use it to kill people they don't like. They use it to overthrow a government that they disagree with, that they consider tyrannical. They are the only ones using perfectly patriotic methods are the most anti-patriotic people. If that does not seem to make sense to you, it shouldn't, because it doesn't make sense. And if it is up, if we are going to do anything, now has to be the time.
And damn,
we are
that's
running out of options.
Yeah, that is a great point. I'm glad you read that. But the American people really need to think about this, especially on the right. When Jan 6 happened, and they claimed that it was a bunch of MAGA, ultra MAGA Republicans, righties out there storming the Capitol building. And then on TV in 4K, they showed all these patriots, so-called patriots, whoever you think they are, getting arrested. They're saying, oh, they killed a cop and they did this, and all these people were in jail, right? 20 years. Some of them got 20 years, 18, 20 years. What do you think that moment that they highlighted for years, since whenever it happened to now, what do you think to the movement? What do you think it did to the movement on the right in protesting?
That's why Jan 6 was a government op.
That's right, because what it does for people on the right, because the people on the right are seeing the people on the left do the same thing, like in Tennessee when they did the same exact thing, but nothing happened.
Right.
So they know if we was to go, a bunch of us were up there and Star Spangled Awesome, walking into a government building trying to remove a politician who we consider doing the same thing, tyrannical, not working for the people, not following the Constitution. What are they going to label it as?
Terrorists.
And where are they going to put us? They're going to put us in a freaking Scout.
Same thing with the Question thing.
Yeah, and this is why a lot of people on the right are afraid to go out there and actually protest, in my opinion. I'm not saying that's my opinion. I'm just saying.
No, you're right, because you have to look at it like this, right? If the right actually does do tree watering, as we've discussed, then they lose everything if they lose. That's the thing, is that to the powers that be in the government right now, those that have control, they wield authority that they feel is granted to them, right? Regardless of what the outcomes is, they feel they are entitled to that power, right? So in a situation like that, you have to be willing and able to lose at the end of the day. And that means losing. If you don't win, you lose your freedom and your liberty, right? Either you get it or you don't. That's at the end of the day, that's what you have to be prepared for. And that's a problem with today's people is they are not at that point where they don't have a choice, right? That is the reason why most people get in you look at anything that's happened overseas in the Middle East, right? When they're overthrowing dictators, right? They have to be to a point where they don't have a choice. It's either we do this or we die. That's where most people have to be in order for things to change. And into that direction. Now, there are things you can do before that, which is what the left is doing, right? They're using institutional power to change things from within, and that's what they're doing. We have to fight back that first to get to that point. So if you want to change institutional power, you have to use things that are available to you. Voting, institutional change, making sure that you're following lawsuits, getting these things that the left has been doing for years. You have to adopt the same sort of policies that the left does and continue on from there. It's the only way you fight them is fighting them with the same
And I
tactics.
think the problem,
And that's
right? And I think the problem with the right, though, is that we want to be such principled people, and we don't want to get down to the level of the left because we all know that the left is dirty. Like we're talking so dirty. But so in the effort of trying to be principled individuals and principled people living on scrupulous means and trying to be good citizens, we don't want to get down to the level. Well, the problem is that is how you lose, I think. And remember when what the one guy back when said that if they go low, we're going to kick them. Well, I think that if they kick us, we fare back.
I think that's how
That's
King
me.
differs. You know, there's this old saying, you know, if you don't live for something, you'll die for nothing. And I'm not telling people to go out here and risk their lives and die. You know, no one should do that. But
Unless
I'm
they
saying
need to.
if you, yeah, unless you need to. But if you don't live for something or stand for something, you'll die for nothing. Because when you're gone, and if you didn't take the time to stand up for this country and stand up for what you believe in and stand up for the Constitution for generations to come, when you die, you've died for nothing.
Yeah.
So,
I think,
you know,
yeah.
and not everybody's going to fight. Be a voice your opinion, call them out, do whatever you got to do, but at least you're standing up for something. Stand up for that whistleblower too. He can come stay at my house. I got him.
No, I think you're right because, like I said, I don't advocate for most extreme means. I think we should do the things that we can do legally now, right? Even then, based off of Marlon's argument, which I believe he's right, it's still legal to do so anyway because that is what the founders did themselves. Is that at a certain point, it is up to the people who have lost faith in their government to stand up and create a new one in its place. If it's not living up to its contract, its social contract.
And the founders did it for much less than what we're tolerating today.
So true.
So it's like, I don't know.
We're coming out choppy, and I think it's on my end. So, it's okay. It came out, at least it happened at the end, not on the beginning. I don't know why it is, but when I left, you guys were cleared up. I was checking it on.
Yeah.
Online. Let me see if it. Yeah, it's still going choppy. I don't know why. My internet shouldn't be affecting you guys.
We know why.
My internet ain't supposed to be affecting y'all's. If I can't function, y'all should be able to function just fine.
I don't know. There might be a certain, three-letter organization.
Yeah,
like
Just for a disclaimer, I was gonna say just a disclaimer. Neither I myself or any other on here are advocating for violence in any way or such form. We are just theorizing and theory only.
And we're talking about gardening, just gardening.
Just gardening.
Green thumbs all around.
We always talk about gardening. Even off of this app, we talk about gardening.
Yeah, lots of we love gardens.
Cucumbers,
I love gardens.
Tomatoes, potatoes.
We talk about fertilizer all the time.
Beans, potatoes.
The Irishman loves my potatoes.
Yes.
All right.
But look, at the end of the day, America, read your Constitution, man.
Yeah, read that.
A lot of people talk about it. A lot of people say it, but there are a lot of people that never read it. They know the basic rights, free speech. Yeah. They know the right to carry. Go deep in that Constitution. There's a lot more in there the deeper you go. I carry around a little pocketbook Constitution right here on my little shelf. There's a little pocketbook Constitution that you can get. Carry it in your car. Carry it everywhere you go. Whenever you see something unjust, whip out your Constitution and see if it's constitutional. That's what you do. The more people start doing that and start calling these people out, wait a minute. You said we got to pay how much?
Hey, you're going to get them killed. Put down the Constitution now. Drop the Constitution. Drop the Constitution. You drop that Constitution.
I don't know to get you killed worse. Holding the Bible.
God, I would make a skit about that where it's like all these like trans like ladies and men, and then like the purple hairs and the blue hairs, and they just got like running around with dildos. Put down the Constitution. He's resisting. He's resisting. And they're just beating him with it.
Yeah. Or you can just be like, in the book of Eli, just memorize it, and they can take it from you. But you already have it up here. You have it in your dome already. And train your kids. Teach your kids that Constitution. Hey, before you turn on that video game, son, I want you to read the First and Second Amendment, and you have 1 week to memorize them.
Or else.
I'll
take your First Amendment right away.
Yeah, real fast. This is a dictatorship in my house.
So Friday, we'll be discussing that so-called recorded audio of the classified documents, which I don't believe exists. But hey, because if it existed, they would have played it by now. Trust and believe me, they would have played it by now. They would not be wasting time playing it over and over and over and over, and they have not done that. So I don't believe them. The same way they played that whole so-called quid pro quo that he had with the Ukrainian government, how they played that.
Remember. Yeah.
Trust me, they'd be playing it. So if they haven't played it yet, they're still trying to create it in Fruity Loops or something like that, or some music program that they're trying to recreate it and some AI. But we'll talk about that Friday. I'm thinking next weekend, not this coming one, but the following week we'll do another Rumble. And we might talk some more about the gardening tools and equipment and the process and what it would look like if it were to be implemented today.
You mean we're gonna do a war game?
A war game.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah,
we're gonna theorize a war game.
Little simulation.
We're starting a fictional book, so
real fictional, super fictional. Man, crazy. So we'll deal with that on Friday. Don't forget to check out the merch in the link in the YouTube channel. Go check it out. We got some funny ones out there. Trust me, you're gonna like them. So go check that out, Mr. Lee.
I'm gonna be immature about this and say like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Savage out. It's slight Indian accent. We'll catch you guys on Friday. Goodbye.
Introducing the sweetest addition to your cupboards. Be